All right, let's go. We'll go to topic number 2, and this will be kind of a shorter topic. I don't know. What do you guys want to do? The plaque one or the bang for your buck one? What do you guys think?
I like the bang for the buck.
All right, let's do it. All right, topic 2. What scale gives you the most bang for your buck? This was a question that was posed in our Facebook group, Batman Statue Collector Brotherhood of the Bat Collectibles. If you haven't joined me there, please do that. Also, you can join Secret Sanctuary on Facebook as well. We would love to have you join there as well. Great discussion, positive community if you haven't joined us. But I always put a topic request out there, what people would like us to talk about, and this was one of the suggestions, so I want to thank that collector. Whenever I first started collecting, I started collecting like little Diamond Select bus, like little bus. Kind of started out small, kind of went to Hot Toys, went to, I've kind of gone up and up and up until third scale. Third scale is kind of my max. But right now, when the economy is what it is and, space and everything else, just want to go around the horn real quick. Like what scale do you feel like gives you the best bang for your buck? And has that changed for you over time?
Absolutely.
All right. Do you want to start with Eric? Eric, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, because I actually like this question because I was actually thinking of this not too long ago, thinking of where it all began for myself. So I'm assuming this question is geared more towards new collectors and where should you place your money and what scale. So I'll just quickly go into how I started. I started with smaller scale stuff, but I'm going to start with 1/6 scale. Because when I first started with 1/6 scale, I think it was like the Bowen days, and you can find a 1/6 for about $300, about $350. So I was collecting 1/6, which even that I thought was a lot of money, $300. But as time went on, and I got more, accustomed to seeing other scales, and I discovered 1/4. And at the time, I'm going to use Sideshow as an example. Sideshow premium formats were going for about $400 to $450. So now for an extra $100, $150, you can have almost twice the amount of statue because roughly 1/6 and 1/6 is almost about the size of a 1/4. If you go in pound for pound with the polystone or resin, whatever. So to me, it was a no-brainer that if I'm going to pay $300 for a 6 scale, I might as well spend the extra $100, $150 and collect quarter scale. So now if you move up a scale to 1/3, those have always been more expensive, going back a few years, like $900 to maybe $1,100. So those have always been double the amount of a quarter scale. So that was always out of the question. So now if you look at today's prices, quarter scales, I'm going to use Sideshow again as an example. Quarter scales are going for $500 to $700. I'm not really sure what 6 scales are going for these days, but I'm going to use 10th scale as an example because I have been looking into 10th scales for my Star Wars collection. I can't believe that 10 scales are going for like $300 and almost $400.
It's crazy.
That's absurd. I would never pay that much money for a 10 scale. So here's my advice for new collectors. If you're a new collector and you have the space, go with 1/4 scale. No, do not spend $300, $400 on a 10th scale statue. I think in this day, Sideshow, the U.S. companies, even Tweeterhead, they still have affordable prices for 1/4 scale. And I think that's the best bang for your buck. If you're a new collector, do not get into 1/3 scale like myself. The prices are absolutely absurd right now. $1,500 plus shipping. You're looking at like $2,000 for a statue.
$2,000 shipped usually. Yeah,
not worth it.
Close.
Don't waste your money. If you're a new collector, start with 1/4 Sideshow or Tweeterhead, something in between there.
What Eric means is keep buying 1/3 scale so they keep making more. That is me being greedy because I want them to keep making more, obviously. But you're exactly right. I mean, 3rd scale, unless you are a very specific collector that has a lot of room. Yeah. Although, I have seen collectors that just get the one-off piece. They just get the 1/3 scale in their collection and they're happy with that.
I think prices have somewhat adjusted more now, but going like when we all first started, like 5-6 years ago, quarter scales weren't that much more money than a 6 scale. Like it was, like you said, you could spend a few, like $100 more and you could have a quarter scale statue.
Yeah. Real quick, the $10 super chat from John again. Eric, what got you into collecting plants? Also, what is the ES on that large one on the left? I think it looks like a 1-to-1 to me.
I grabbed the sign, but there's a plant growing through the sign. It says "Crazy Plant Lady."
Oh,
my wife.
So your crazy plant lady wife has slowly invaded into the statue space.
It might have started first before the statue. So you gotta, when you're married, you gotta compromise. So
I'm gonna channel Paul. I'm gonna channel Julia Rose, and she's like, "Why don't you put a poison ivy statue right there? It'd be perfect."
there is a tiny little Batman guy.
I love it.
I didn't even put that there. My wife put it there.
All right. So Eric says quarter scale. I'm going to go up to Dan. Dan, what do you think? What scale gives you the best bang for your buck, at least in 2023?
Pretty much everything that Eric said.
Yeah.
I started much the same way. Hot toys, like for so many of us, was my gateway drug. And Batman, the OG Batman premium format was my first quarter scale. And it's funny, it still sits in my orders list as my #1 order. I don't remember how many orders I'm up to on Sideshow. It's a lot, but it was $399 and it was $40 shipping.
Wow.
And at the time I had
big
bought,
box too.
Oh yeah, it's a very big box actually.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would be packaged differently today, but that is a big box. And at the time, I was paying, I think, probably between say $200 and $300, anywhere from $200 to $300 for hot toys, and seeing that Batman in person and getting that in, that was the switch. Then it was, bang for the buck. But for all the reasons, without repeating everything Eric just said, those are the reasons I would go with quarter scale as well. I still love third scales, but space and money, I mean, $2,000 shipped on average is just absurd, was the exact right word to use.
Yeah. How about you, Jeff?
I started with this guy.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
I like that. That's cool.
And I didn't buy him because I was going to start collecting statues. This was just simply a decoration to put with my comics. And I probably had 4 or 5 different pieces about this scale that I just would put on comic shelves. It wasn't until I was at San Diego Comic-Con and I saw Sideshow's first Batgirl. And that was my first quarter scale. And it went quickly downhill from there. But to answer the question, I would also say quarter scale, especially if you're talking about Sideshow quarter scale. There are a lot of companies like Iron Studios that can't seem to make a quarter scale for under $1,000 anymore.
Yep.
And so then I got to start thinking, well, is a $1,000 or $1,100 quarter scale really a better deal than a $1,500 1/3 scale? Maybe not. So overall, I'll say quarter scale. But sometimes you can get a pretty good deal on a 1/3 scale if you look hard.
That's right. Again, I can't say it better than all of you guys have said here in the panel here tonight. I also feel like quarter scale, at least, is right now the best bang for your buck. Are the prices increasing? Yes. Sideshow done a good job of trying to keep it low. Yes. But I will say that with quarter scale, you're still getting that wow factor. When you see a quarter scale, like when I look at that Dark Knight Returns over here, when I'm looking at it, looking at that, I get a wow factor. Like it's still like, whoa, that is awesome. It's got a presence to it. Mm-hmm. I feel like the 10 scale stuff is good, but I feel like there's not as much of a wow factor when you it's like, oh, that's cute. Or that's, it's little, it's like, but if that's all you have though, it might have a bigger presence. Mm-hmm. So I feel like some of it is the company it's around, if that makes sense. So I don't want to belittle the 10 scale collectors. Also, it could be if you have quantity, like I've seen like those X-Men dioramas where they have the Sentinels and everything, like that has a lot of wow factor. So you can't take away from that. At all. But Eric said about the price point, like I would never spend $300 on a 1/10 scale anything. Or specific, just a figure. Maybe a Batmobile or something. I don't know. But I would rather spend a little bit more money and get something with a lot more wow factor being in quarter scale. And It like Rapture. Basically, that's what I said there. 1/10 has presence when it's in a diorama or large group. I agree. But if you just have the one, to me it doesn't have that wow factor. When it comes to third scale will always be my favorite scale. I don't feel like there's anything better than that. I don't feel like, for me, that's me personally. Quarter scale comes a close second, but the price, the amount of room it takes, the fact that I have to build a freaking bunker to accommodate what I want, like that says a lot. Like it is a lot of room. I know Dan has had a lot of third scales, and you were going to go a lot more third scales, but then you're like, you kind of reined yourself back. You're like, whoa, this takes up way more room than I have.
Yep.
And so you've had to scale back. Eric, you've gone to third scale, but even tonight earlier, you're like, maybe Talley needs to go. Like it's like, they take up a lot of room. And when you're talking $200 or $2,000 shipped, that's a bitter pill to swallow, especially if you're buying a ton of these.
Yeah. We didn't really touch on 1/6, and I didn't want to touch on it because I really don't know what they go for these days. I
don't either. I say I wish Jeff was here because he still buys some.
I feel like they're not too far off from a premium format, so I think for the same thing, you might as well, if you have the money for a 1/6, just go to 1/4.
Yeah, I mean, Tweeterheads are like 500.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
So like the 1/10 scale Phoenix, like some of them do, like some of them, like if they have a bigger presence to them, and again, I'm not saying that they don't have presence. It's just for me personally, again, this is just my commentary. For me personally, if I have a 1/10 scale here and a quarter scale here, the quarter scale is definitely going to draw my eye way more than the 10 scale.
Yeah.
But if that's all you have, if you only have 10 scale and nothing else in your collection, then I think it would have presence.
Yeah.
Again, for me, it's surrounding.
It's not just we say bang for your buck, not just presents. Like what's the best value for the dollar? So
that's true. And for me, I would rather spend $600 or $700 on a quarter scale versus $300 or $400 on a singular 10 scale.
Chris, you know what we think when we see a 10 scale with presents.
What?
Some stupid.
Wish it was in quarter scale.
Oh, well, right. Exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean,
every time.
100%.
Yeah.
And we're not the only ones. I hear it all the time in the community. Like, oh, it's like that Tweeterhead piece. I wish it was in quarter scale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, nothing against, like I said, Chris, nothing against the 10 scales. The 10 scales that I've seen, they look amazing, but
they're all amazing.
I'm going for value for, pound for pound polystone for the dollar. I think the value's in the quarter scale.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey guys, thank you so very much for watching today, and if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button right here on the screen and check out these two awesome videos. I think you're going to love them. And also please join us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I would love to have you join in all the fun. Thank you guys so very much for watching. See you in the Batcave.